me share my screen.
There you go. All right.
Okay, hang on just 1 second. Now I got to share my screen again. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about the Anavrio HR Tech Consulting Network. We're really glad that you're joining us today, and we're super excited about our consulting network. And we just want to share with you a little bit about it. And we're going to keep this session really informal and really casual. And so we're going to stay on camera. We've got some slides to guide us through, and just hope that you guys are as excited about it as we are. So a little bit of, some housekeeping stuff first, then we're going to go into who is Anavrio. Never heard of Anavrio, who are they? We're going to talk about what is the Anavrio Consulting Network. We want to talk about why you should join the network. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things, exciting things that we have coming up in the near term, and maybe a few things a little far off. And then we're going to talk to you about how you join. So, housekeeping, you noticed already that we are recording the session. We want to make sure that for those of you there were a lot of people who registered, and we know a lot of times that at the last minute things come up and they can't attend. So we're going to go ahead and record this so we can send it out for all those individuals and any of you guys who might want to come back and just watch the recording again. All of you are muted, but we have the chat open, and Brian is going to be monitoring the chat. And so we'll come to questions at the end of the session to make sure that we try to answer all of your questions. We also have Ben with us today. Ben is our marketing person. He's going to be potentially watching the Q&A as well, watching some of the things. So between Brian and Ben, they might be chiming in with questions or comments. So before we jump into everything, you're probably like, who is this lady talking to me? So I wanted to introduce myself and introduce Brian. I already mentioned Ben. So my name is Brenda Laughlin. I am the co-founder of Anavrio, and we're going to talk about what Anavrio is in a few minutes. But just to give you a little tiny bit about my background, I come from the HR corporate space, started several decades ago in HR, working directly for organizations, served in almost every capacity you can think of, from an HR assistant, a generalist, worked in training and development, recruiting, was a CHRO for a company, and then made the switch in like the mid 2000s to be a consultant for SuccessFactors, and spent several years with SuccessFactors, then in leadership roles with one of SuccessFactors' largest partners. A couple of years ago, I went on my own and started my own firm and did a lot of HR tech, data privacy consulting. And Brian and I started Anavrio almost 2 years ago. And so we're just excited to start, kind of share what we're doing with all of you, and hope that you're going to be excited as we are. A little bit personal about me, I split my time between the beautiful Rocky Mountains in Colorado and the beach in Naples, Florida, and just enjoy spending time with my family and my favorite dog, Murphy. He's a red lab. A little bit about me. I am very passionate, very, very passionate about being a freelancer and independent, because I was a freelancer independent for several years. And then when I started my own firm. And so as we created Anavrio, we're going to share a little bit more about it. That really has become a passion about how can we work with freelancers? How can we help freelancers to be more successful in this industry? So Brian, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Yes. Welcome, everyone. Great to meet you. I see some familiar names here on our attendee list. So love to see everyone attending here. So Brian Turk, co-founder, managing partner of Anavrio. I also, by way of background, started my career in HR. I sort of stumbled into it because I had a psychology degree and didn't want to go too far down that path in grad school and so forth. I became a little bit enamored with HR tech, my first exposure being when I was a recruiter slash HR person of many hats for a relatively smaller company where I was the one and only person who was interested in implementing technology for our HR department. So by default, I became the HR consultant internally, and that gave me exposure to some really interesting companies and solutions. And this is back in the mid late 2000s that I didn't know existed. And as a recruiter, you get to meet a whole array of professionals. I loved HR, but I also was really interested in IT. And I didn't have an IT background, but through implementing HR tech, I implemented a recruiting system and a performance management system. I developed passion for it. And I went to work for, from there, a little bit as an independent consultant. And then I worked for a recruitment process outsourcing firm where I was thrown into some very deep technology on the recruiting side for a couple of years. And then I worked for a consulting firm, which is now known as Aperio. And I worked there for, I would say about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years as a SuccessFactors consultant. And that's when my independent journey started. I worked on some independent contracts for a little over 1 year and then started my own boutique firm. Sometimes it was just me. Sometimes I could pull in people that I knew and loved from the independent space to work on projects. And that's my history for most of the 2010s up until 1.5 years ago when we started in Avrio. So by way of a little bit about my the personal side, father of a very energetic and talkative almost 3-year-old. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here for a few years, but spent most of my adult life in Chicago and bounced around to Milwaukee and San Francisco a little bit, but settled here where I'm close to family and have a very old orange and white cat. So yeah, great to see everyone and excited to jump in here.
Yeah, thanks. And I apologize that I muted, woke up this morning with a cough. So when I'm not talking, I'm going to mute so you guys don't hear me. And I apologize ahead of time. So let's talk a little bit about Inagrio. Brian, do you want to kind of share with everybody who we are?
Absolutely. So Inagrio is an independent consulting collective, an HR technology consulting collective. We refer to ourselves as a consultant network. So we are driven by our independent and freelance workforce. We do call ourselves a fluid workforce model because we don't completely draw boundaries there. But the thought being, we want to meet the best professionals in HR technology wherever you are in your professional journey and wherever you are in your work preferences and work needs in aligning work and life. And we feel that this is the way to attract the best talent in 2022 and beyond. And we feel that because of firsthand experience. As I mentioned earlier, I began my journey as an independent in the early 2010s, I want to say 2013 or 14, and then began folding in other consultants on projects where I could and where there was a need. And over the years, I've seen an increasing interest in the talented people I've worked with who were both fellow consultants at companies I'd worked for or professionals I'd worked for in HR previously, having more and more of an interest in driving and navigating their own career paths, not necessarily always because they didn't like the companies they worked for, although there is a lot of that. But there's also something helpful about being able to choose what your next project will be, to ensure that wherever you are in your compensation needs, that you can target that and you can kind of calibrate the market. And that if you have some development interests, that you can sort of self-select into those opportunities. So, you know, I sincerely believe that this is a very big piece of what everyone is calling the future of work, probably bigger than even what's being talked about. So with that, in my own journey in being an independent and running my own boutique practice, there were some recurring challenges I had. And one of those, I mean, it's generally that feast or famine. To go back to a cliched phrase there, I would either have too much work or not enough. And when I had too many projects or opportunities going on, I was always either scrambling to find people who could work on my team and subcontract with me, or just referring these leads and opportunities back out to people in my network. And then sometimes I would exhaust my network and have to find people that maybe I recognized on LinkedIn or I knew of, and you know, check and see if they were a good fit. Or on the other side, I'd be wrapping up a large engagement or two and want to be thinking about what's coming next for me. And so we developed Navrio to help kind of smooth that out for independents and freelancers and make this a win-win. For you and for the clients you serve, because again, you know, we feel that they get better talent that way. They get people who are self-motivated, who are developed in their interests and working on projects that they want to be working on. And then there's an aspect of flexibility that's built in there too. So in terms of who we engage with, we don't just go after direct clients ourselves. So yes, we absolutely are always in front of HR and IT leaders, asking them what their needs are, networking, building leads for HR technology related projects or support needs. But we also look to other avenues. We partner with HR tech vendors, not just in the way of referring their solutions to our clients, but also in the way of coming in and helping them implement or support their solutions within their existing clients. We also do partner with consulting firms. Some of the mid to large size consulting firms run into the same challenges that everyone does in terms of talent management. They will hire and staff a bench, and they'll have that bench and they will look to place the people on that bench on projects, and that doesn't always fit perfectly like a puzzle. There are little gaps in there, and we come in and we fill those gaps. And sometimes the projects in their pipelines require them to have some augmented talent or some external support. And we think of ourselves as a friendly partner to them, not a competitor to them. And we just have that mindset generally. I think that's what works best in the independent space. And we feel more broadly in business as well that we look for where can we fit in and work with people and companies and support them. So that's generally what we're about. And those are the three sides that we look to in terms of helping companies, helping consulting firms, and helping vendors put their best foot forward in the HR technology space. And then one more piece that I'll add is that within our network as well, we do have consultants who have their own opportunities with clients that they bring in. And just like I mentioned earlier, when I was in that position myself of too much work or too big of a project here, I would always think, wouldn't it be nice if I just had a button I could press and magically some talented people that I had some sort of context for and knew that they had credibility and expertise could work with me, and I could talk with them about joining me on this project. So we want this to be that solution for you. So that's our quick intro there. Brenda, anything you'd add to that?
No, that was great. Let's dive in a little bit into little bit more into our model, as we think about Anabrio and the network itself, we've really formulated it from a consultant perspective to help you grow your business, or maybe even start your business. If you're an independent freelancer, we want to make sure that you have access to new opportunities, that you can tap into, like Brian just said, tap into the network of our consultants. So if you have work yourself and you're like, this isn't in my sweet spot, I really need somebody else to help me with this. Maybe you focus on learning and development and they need somebody to help with an onboarding project. Now you have a resource to some people to tap into, and we have models for working through that. Maybe you just have too much work. I mean, we've been in that spot where you're working 60 hours and someone calls you and says, I have another project. And you're like, I don't have any more hours in the day. Who do I use? And so we have this great network where our consultants are bringing in work. And if maybe you just don't like business development, there are a lot of people who do not like business development. Some of the greatest consultants we've met were like, wow, they were like this hidden gem out there and nobody knew about them because they just are great at what they do. And so we want to be that business development arm for you too, where we find work for you. And then that allows you to focus on what you're good at. Some of you are really good at business development and want to do a lot of that. And that's great. We have the consultants that can help you with delivery. If you don't want to focus on business development, that's great. If there are other things that you don't want to focus on, we are developing, we might already have different programs and offerings in place that can help you. Or, if there's enough people that are interested we are working on developing and adding our services so that you can focus on what you want to do. Next, it's expanding your skills. So some of you are like, I don't know the HR tech industry, but I want to. And Brian especially is very passionate about bringing new people into the industry and expanding it. And I'm super passionate that we make sure that when we're delivering in a way that really meets the customer's needs. As a former CHRO, I've had some not great experiences. And so together we're super passionate about that. And we want to give you, whether you're an experienced consultant or whether you're brand new, give you access to development opportunities, to coaching, to learn from other consultants, to really expand your skill sets. Some of it too, I was a SuccessFactors consultant for years and worked in the SuccessFactors space. Great space. But I was focused on SuccessFactors. I didn't know what was happening out in the rest of the world because I was so busy delivering. I was so busy interacting in that space. And I felt like I had a great handle on the SuccessFactors space, but maybe not a great handle on what else was out there. And I had all my eggs in one basket, right? If I was so focused on SuccessFactors, I didn't know some of the other systems out there. So we have partnerships with other vendors. We have partnerships with big vendors like SuccessFactors, and we're continuing to add those to those partnerships. But we have small partnerships with smaller vendors where you have an opportunity to get into, be trained, and to work on implementation of another technology, and maybe put not all your eggs in one basket. Also, some of you, we have people in here who are just really great at project management, and we are always getting requests for project managers. And so, what are the things that you need to add to your skill set so you can be a project manager on XYZ technology implementation and beyond? And our requests for people are not limited to implementation or project management. We get requests for integration, data privacy. We even get stuff for product managers, sales. It goes on and on, the requests that we get. So we really want to be here to help you grow your business, to expand your skills, and then also to give you access. So there are hurdles to jump through when you work with certain partners or with certain vendors. There might be big fees to pay. There might be tools that you have to buy. There might be agreements you have to sign. And so we can do that for you where you might not have the time to dedicate to fulfilling those requirements or have the interest in doing that, or just the means or whatever. So we can take that over for you. Again, that kind of falls back to letting you focus on what you do best, but then getting access to what you need. Additionally, we have some partnerships with some incredible tools. I'm going to call out one of my favorites. If you're a SuccessFactors implementation consultant, we have access to CodeBot. CodeBot is this great automation tool that helps you as you're configuring SuccessFactors. We can get you access to CodeBot, and it's a great way for you to save time on some of the things that are just take a little bit more time. And so we've got a great tool with them. We've got another vendor tool that helps with as you're doing vendor selection. So some of you are more strategic, which we love that, and want to start higher up in the process before someone even selects a vendor. Or you're working with a client who is going to go into vendor selection. We have this great automation tool that we work with, that Olive, that helps with vendor selection. And we're expanding our tools almost at monthly. And so you can get access to these tools at a discount and in different ways. So we want to bring that to all of you as consultants. I know as a consultant, there were things like, when I was freelance, why can't I get access to that? Oh, it requires this step and this step and this step and just too much to do. So we have that. Also, for several years, I led the Center of Excellence team at one of the, at a consulting firm. And we would create these amazing tools and templates to help with delivery, project plans, and all kinds of information and things. And so we will be building up that library, a lot of it with your input, with your tools that we can all share with each other. And so we think that's going to be a great benefit to everybody to have access to all those tools and templates that you wouldn't normally get when you're a freelancer. You get access to those when you're working as an employee, but not necessarily when you're a freelancer or a small boutique. And in addition to that, we have a lot of benefits that we can provide. It's hard when you're an independent to get access to medical benefits and dental and life insurance and LTD and short-term disability and even just other discount programs. And so we're constantly building our partnerships up so that we can bring to you some things that make it a little bit nicer to be on your own and to get you access to it. I know US benefits is a big deal. And we'll talk more about what's coming in the future, and we'll talk about some of the other things later. But yeah, it's really hard, especially if you're in the United States, to get, work through the benefits piece. And so we've got some great partnerships that can help with that. So, Brian, anything to add here?
No, I'm just gonna insert a quick note. I've had a couple of Q&A items related to the kind of mechanism we have set up. So Zoom has chat and it has Q&A. We have chat disabled. So again, we're Zoom webinar. We're all professionals at Zoom nowadays, right? But Zoom webinar is new for us. We have the Q&A turned on, so you won't be able to submit anything via chat, but yeah, do find the Q&A if you have some questions or comments, and we'll make sure we address those for you.
Thank you. Yeah, again, apologize. We're just learning. We've used WebEx and some of those before, but this is our first time at Zoom webinar. So thanks for your patience with us on it. Okay, so I wanted to just, kind of bring this all together for you. Make sure that you guys aren't seeing all of our pictures there. As we look at Anabrio's vision, our vision and what we're trying to accomplish is really around the 3 E's: enable, engage, and envision. We are focused on enabling all of you as consultants and enabling the industry. So development programs, consulting practices, tools, templates, access to vendors, access to partnerships, support, community. Same with engagement, which ties together. Being able to bring all, there are all kinds of associations out there for almost every industry, but there isn't something that really brings together all of the HR tech community as a whole, at all of our freelancers and independents, and even just all of the consultants that are out there. And so that is our vision, is to really engage the entire community and create this network where all of us talented HR technology professionals can work together, and also allow those of you that are freelancers or independents or want to be freelancers and independents to work more on a flexible, on-demand type of model. And that works great for vendors as well. That works great for direct clients and firms. And so we really think that's important. And lastly, envision. So I talked a little bit about being so focused on one vendor, but even if you're not focused on one vendor, keeping track of everything that's happening in the future is a lot. And one of the things that we're very focused on is looking at those new technologies and the pieces of future of work. Part of that's why we're building this model, because we really believe that this fluid workforce, the independent, is part of the future of work. And so we focus on AI and RPA and some of the all of this distributed workforce. We're working with some Web3 DAOs right now and doing some kind of cool things. And so we want to be able to help, if you're interested in just learning about those, we want to bring you along. If you, maybe you want to work on some of those things, we will have opportunities there. So we really see this as like, we want to help try to create the future of work, the future of HR technology, and then really help envision that together. Okay, next slide is you, Brian, I think.
Sure, great. So just a little bit of a preview of things that are coming up next. So we're going to send a link, and I'll send it in the Q&A here. I think everyone will have visibility to it. To submit interest in joining the network, and essentially that'll let us know that you'd like to be clued in on all of what's going on. So what we will have coming up that we will be following up with you on include some of these items here. So Brenda mentioned in one of the earlier slides, in one of the biggest gaps as an independent is having benefits. So medical insurance, retirement vehicles, vacation time, things like that. So we do have a solution for that for independents. And we will have a webinar on that topic coming up in the near future. And there's caveats there, of course, but it's really exciting solution that I wish had been around 8 years ago. And the next item beyond that, there will be a global exploration of some solutions if you're not in the US. Again, how do I get things like medical insurance and other benefits that are out there. We also will be getting into some more specifics and details around our vendor partnerships for our members who are staying in touch with us over the coming months. So as Brenda mentioned, we have already some existing partnerships in place with vendors who we're doing services for, and also we have some referral agreements in place as well for many of those, which is another opportunity as a consultant to generate some additional income. We will be adding more in 2023. We're in conversations with vendors who will bring in some additional opportunities for services work, implementations, and ongoing support. And as Brenda mentioned, even things like project management, change management's another one. Some people focus on, testing, things like that. But all of those are needed, and they're needed by vendors as well as they're implementing and supporting their products within their clients. Lastly, and this one I'm really excited about, is a community platform. And this one is a little bit further out. So one of those, further along, but we're trying to accelerate it, is a platform for everyone to have a forum to kind of collaborate, meet, and in some cases commiserate. This is hard work. HR tech is not easy. And working with HR departments and clients has some unique, interesting nuances to it and commonalities. I've worked, you know, in a number of different vendor contexts before. And as an HR tech consultant on behalf of those vendors. And I've also worked as a vendor agnostic consultant and gone in and led projects for companies where they're just kind of integrating all their systems or redoing how they're tying together the employee lifecycle across their systems. The challenges are largely the same, and the obstacles that you run into are largely the same. And it's nice and reassuring to be able to share that with other professionals in the space, and also enlightening as well. It can help you, you know, navigate some of these situations with a little more confidence, and like I said, reassurance that you are doing the best possible for you and your client when you have, you know, when you're taking a certain approach and you're able to talk to other people who do this same work, even if it's not exactly what you do. There's a benefit to having that community. So we will have a community, an online community coming up, and that will be a channel for everyone to talk and then also work together as well as we develop its functionality over time. So really excited about what's coming the rest of 2022 as the year is wrapping up really fast here, and really excited for 2023.
Great, thank you. So, you know, are we a staffing firm? Are we a partner? Are we a consulting firm? We're just new, we're different. And we really just want to bring together everybody and see you know, all ships rise. That's really our motto, is how can we help all of us expand our businesses, grow? We've got things like, we've got these great vendors who are looking to bring their products into different clients. If you love doing that, or, you know, you see a client with needs, we've got a great way for you to make some extra revenue. So we really are focused on, you know, how can we help all of you? And you're probably going, okay, now she's going to tell me this, they're going to charge me an arm and a leg. And that is not what we're going to do. This is free. Anyone can join the network. We don't care if you're working today or you're not. In fact, if you're working and you're in a full-time job, that's great. Maybe you just need a gig or a side hustle. That's totally fine. We have lots of people who work with us who say, you know, I am just having a really hard time in this economy, and I just need a few more hours. That's great. We want you in the network. Maybe you don't even have any interest in taking on anything now. We don't even care. Like, we want you to be a part of our network. The cost is free. Joining us, providing your information, that's all free. We're going to keep in touch. We're going to give you lots of information. There are going to be some things that we're going to have to charge for, but that's not really our goal. Our goal is not around, hey, let's charge for everything. Our goal is really to bring the best of the best to you guys. So we'd love for you to register and be a part of us and spread the word, right? Part of why we're having this informational session is just to get the word out. Like, we want to get more and more people into our network so that we can start connecting people with opportunities, supporting you, learn more about what everybody needs and what everybody wants, and help make sure that none of us feel alone and that we have the support and the resources that we need. So it's absolutely free. Anyone can join. If you're interested in HR technology consulting, project management, or any of the other things I've mentioned today, and you just register by submitting your name to this link. And then we're going to be in touch asking you some more questions. You know, we want to understand what your interests are, what you're doing today. And we'll be reaching out with more information on some of the other things we've talked about today. So with that, want to open it up to questions. So Brian, do we have any questions?
I've answered a couple questions offline here, but yeah, questions that anyone has, you know, if it's something you'd like to just chat with us directly about, feel free to to just note that or send us an email after the fact. If you're happy with us answering our question over the webinar here, yeah, we'd love to. So please find the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and we'd love to hear what kind of questions everyone has.
I think there's a couple of, there might be some people who can chat too. So if you can just look at that as well.
Chat is, no, we have the chat. It looks like only maybe hosts and panelists.
Okay, great.
So let's see what we have here. Great question. Can you share more about the types of HR tech that you typically get requests on? So, I mean, I'll take a shot at a short answer to this, Brenda, and you can add if that works. So we, in terms of the landscape of HR, end to end. So anything from technology around sourcing, recruiting, recruitment marketing, applicant tracking, onboarding, to integrations, to core HR, learning management, and kind of the hardcore payroll, managing payroll data. We're working with a company right now to archive, I think, 20 years of payroll data that they've had in an on-premise solution, and now they've moved to the cloud. And then we do sometimes get requests that are more around things like strategy or process, but that are a little more linked to the technology. So it's not just about the technology. Like, we want to do performance management better. That probably means getting a new system, but we know the answer isn't just going to be plugging in a new system and pressing a button. It's going to involve a lot more thinking and strategy and process. So, I mean, the short answer to your question, yeah, go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, I like you. What was on my end or on yours, so.
Okay, did I cut out for a second? Okay, yeah, and then we are vendor agnostic in terms of
yeah, just for a second, but I think that most of your answer came through.
Okay,
might be me.
Oh, you might have frozen up there, Brenda. Oh, there you are. You're back. I just saw your hands. Okay, so I'll keep going. I
think.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, so
okay, I'll keep going. I'll keep going here. One more piece on the types of HR tech. So yeah, vendor agnostic. So we don't say that we just focus specifically on certain vendors with companies. We do encourage, we do encourage our clients, unless they come to us and say, we've implemented SuccessFactors, or we've implemented Workday, or we are in the process of, then of course we target consultants who have that specialization. But we also say, sometimes HR tech is a little broader than just about whatever vendor you're using, and there's some fundamentals behind it as well. Yeah, we don't really filter in terms of the types of HR tech. And of course, our goal in growing the network here is to have as much representation as possible in terms of functional areas and types of technology. And we have everything right now from people who actually do development, software development, all the way to people that just, we do have some members who just focus more on strategy, and they're not really hands-on technical people, because sometimes we get those types of opportunities too. So it's a spectrum, and we want to be able to serve all of those in between, and we encourage people from all those sort of walks of life to come in. Next question is, what kind of scale do you already have in the UK? So we're probably at around, I think, the 150 mark in terms of membership, and I want to say percentage wise maybe 10 to 20% UK or regional, the UK region generally. we have obviously heavy representation here, US, North America, US and Canada, but we are focusing also on UK, we're focusing on Southeast Asia, Australia. Those are all places that, I mean, you know, some of our clients are global themselves, even if they're headquartered here in the US. They have divisions or groups or teams that operate in those time zones, and time zone really is, I mean, you know, language, yes, but time zone really is the tough one. So we do want to represent in all regions. So yeah, UK, we're still working on building that up. We would like to see more. So to build on the HR tools question, do you also review the existing workflow to ensure the human and system processes are aligned? For example, does the system workflow match the end user behavior without workarounds? I can say by reading that question, you think like we do. It's very much not just about the system. It's about starting really with the business objectives, digging into requirements and processes, and making sure that the system is being built informed and around by the best leading practices, and then meeting their needs from a process perspective as well. So love that question. Absolute yes. The system and the behavior need to be aligned. Absolutely. Do your HR tech clients ever need, pardon me, do your HR tech clients ever need somewhat unrelated services like graphic design, branding for their systems or programs? So the answer is probably often. We probably don't always uncover those just by nature of by nature of working with them. But as we get more into the long-term client relationships, those do offer opportunities to dig around a little bit. Generally, it starts with something like, well, I'm implementing a new recruiting system and we have to obviously rebuild our career site now. So that might be an opportunity for some branding work and potentially graphic design work. Graphic design would be probably more. We do work with a little bit in the startup space, particularly with what we call Web3, or what's known as Web3, because we have an interest there, and they're more likely to need closer help with things like graphic design. But in larger companies, they have big departments and so forth, and we don't necessarily have ins there directly. But that is something where with some of our more established clients, there might be opportunities to dig around a little bit. And definitely, yes, with some smaller ones, a little more easily. Always great to be able to meet whatever needs a client has. So love that question too. Is a consultant from India also able to get a project for a US customer? Absolutely, yes. So again, the toughest component with regard to, if you're working in a different part of the world, then sometimes you have to work around US time zones, which is not always fun, or vice versa. I've worked on projects from the US for clients in Southeast Asia, and staying up until 11 or 12 p.m. when you have other life obligations or other clients that operate during US daytime hours. It's not fun. So doesn't mean that it's not something we offer if it fits your preferences and the ability of coverage that you have. And then there's also what we call asynchronous, the ability to get some work done that isn't necessarily about live meetings or workshops. So sometimes it means if you're working with a client in the US, you might have to be in a meeting or two during US hours, but you can do most of the work during your own time zone daytime if you wish. So those are opportunities as well, depending on the nature of the project and the way that the team is composed and what sort of role you're playing. One note I would like to make related to that is that we're talking a lot about this consultant network and matching you as individuals with opportunities. We do also, by the way, work with small teams and boutique firms as well. We want to expand the pie, and we oftentimes find that anyone who is either a solo or has a small team, introducing opportunities generally is helpful. Sometimes individuals, sometimes small firms have their own opportunities and they need some additional team members to add to that as well. So both work, but the other piece that works well for us with some of our larger engagements is that whatever particular specialty you have related to HR technology, there can be a place for you on a project team or on a team with a client. We assemble teams from our consultant network for our clients. So you may be paired up with or grouped with other consultants. Let's say your specialization is in project management or data integrations. Well, you may be part of a larger project where a company is implementing a new system that involves both core HR, but also recruiting and onboarding, and they need a project manager to oversee all this. They also need someone who can help tie those systems together with integrations. They may need somebody who knows whatever vendor they're implementing with to help with configuration or help write test scripts or with training or things like that. So we love to assemble teams, and being part of a team means, well, you don't always have to have complete uptime during the customer's daytime hours necessarily. If your role is one where you're doing some offline work, great. There are opportunities for that as well. So love the questions here. Yeah, so a note, similar to Upwork in some regards. Yeah, Upwork is a good sort of marketplace for freelancers generically. And we have a bit more of a point of view, I think, on HR and talent management technology above and beyond that. So we love to, we love to talk about how we address those three components from the earlier slide: enable, engage, and envision. And we do that all for the HR tech industry, both you as consultants and the workforce behind it, as well as for clients. So that enable piece is sort of the care and feeding of HR tech and care and feeding of our workforce and us as consultants. And the engage piece, of course, is more like, where Upwork would be on that kind of initiating, establishing, carrying out the transactions of projects and things like that. We do have a bit more of a niche on the HR tech side, and probably the draw of HR tech related opportunities, I think, would be a little more robust and more of our focus. So I think there's a bit of a differentiator there. And then on the Envision side, that innovation piece is one that we feel really excited about as well. Being able to partner with the brightest and best out there on the market doing HR tech. We partner with, for instance, a vendor called CodeBot, and they do automated configuration for SAP SuccessFactors. That's something that saves customers, hundreds of hours potentially, depending on the size of their implementation or the amount of support they do. And coming into contact with, working with, partnering with, and offering the best and greatest tools out there is something we love to be a part of as well. So yeah, excellent. Okay, submitted my contact info from someone here. If we are a fit for one or the other, will this be a 1099? What requirement is there of me to work with you and your clients? Yeah, so we do work primarily on a contract basis for our teams. So there is potential in the future that We might be building some core teams in the context of some of our vendor partnerships based on the volume of business that we're getting from them. But we like to look at it as a fluid workforce model. So we're not against hiring full-time or a part-time, permanent employee. The biggest wins that we found so far are more on the contract side. In terms of requirements there, generally it's better if you do have just better for yourself if you have your own business entity. That's not specifically in respect to working with us, but generally on the market, there's some reasons why it's helpful to have a business entity for yourself. And I won't get into the legal aspects of it, and I don't call myself a legal expert, but you do want to look into that as a consideration. Above and beyond that, the requirements are client specific. So in terms of opportunities that we would have, they have different requirements from multiple aspects. So we like to be flexible. We like to work with as broad of a group as possible. So we will absolutely be excited to engage with you, and thanks for submitting your info. All right, that's all I'm seeing so far. And we have.
I don't know if you can hear me again. Sorry, I had some internet issues. So yeah, thank you everyone for your questions. If you have any individual questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. I will send out an email with the recording link, and then feel free to reach out to us individually. We're happy to respond. And again, we thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, everyone.